One of the questions that I get most often when I'm offering this cacao is, how did I get started on this? So my journey with cacao started in 2011. I met Keith. He was a cacao shaman, and I'm sure other cacao ceremonial cacao folks are going to know about Keith. Maybe not. Um, but in my opinion, and from my perspective, he's a huge reason why ceremonial cacao made this resurgence, or why it's become such a thing, kind of a trend. And it's because he was introducing it to people on his porch in Guatemala at a magical place called Lake Atitlan. And so I met him when he was touring in Salt Lake City in 2011. I did cacao ceremonies with him for about 3 years. Back then, we were using Skype. I would Skype with him and do a cacao ceremony or like inner work session maybe once or twice a month. And I was just intrigued. I thought it was so cool. I thought, what is this pure cacao? Like, I've only ever heard of chocolate that has sugar and dairy and stuff in it. And so he was using it as a plant medicine partner to aid inner work and enhance intuitive processing. The idea is that it helps open the heart, and science has validated this today. And this is also what I believe the Mayans, Aztecs, and Toltecs, Olmecs knew intuitively, that it was this love that runs through the heart. It was, they called it heart blood. And so Keith was using it in a meditation, healing, intuitive processing type space. And I found that work to be intriguing. And so I ended up moving to Guatemala. I bought a one-way ticket. Let's see, how old was I? I was 21. I dropped out of college. I broke up with my girlfriend and bought a one-way ticket to Guatemala. And I was like, I'm ready to just do this and not look back. And I'm so glad I did that. It was such a great thing to do in your early 20s, to kind of travel and see different countries, third world countries, get some parasites, no, that wasn't fun. But anyhow, I moved to Guatemala for 6 months, and I stayed in a very simple shack. It was, I think my rent was like 60 quetzales a month. It was very, very cheap to live there if you're okay with like basics, just really rudimentary stuff. Um, and so 3 times a week, Keith would host a cacao ceremony. And so I would attend the ceremonies, and I would kind of help. I would be the guy who collected money at the door for his ceremony. I can't remember how much it cost. I think it was like 100, maybe 200 cues or something. And I also ended up starting a tiny business out there. It was called Lemonade Stand Kombucha in June. And so there was this other company in town. Anyways, I started a business. Didn't, just first time, just having fun. I didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted to see if I could make some money using like upcycled materials. Keith's whole mission was like sharing pure cacao, but that was always optional, though it was always there. I think his real thing was, he was like a steward of consciousness. He was more concerned with um, the unseen realms than the physical realms. He lived very simply. He lived in a tiny room. It was probably like 15 by 15, and just a very simple life. He grew up caving and splunking, and kind of a classic dirtbag, if you will. But he really introduced ceremonial cacao and this type of intuitive processing work using messages from the subconscious mind, guided meditations, empath trainings, working with certain deities like Archangel Michael and Ganesha. And he, um, intentionally or unintentionally kind of started a little movement this with ceremonial cacao. And the idea was like the cacao helps you connect with whatever you're ready to connect with. It's a facilitation and partnership tool, and it helps you go deeper. Cacao is not a plant medicine teacher, it's a plant medicine partner. So it's not going to take you on a trip, but it brings the door to you, and you have the choice to go through that door. And one of the other kind of overarching ideas is that reality isn't out there, it's in here, it's inside, and nothing changes until you do. And so this inner work is like, it's like this invitation to construct and change your world from the inside out. And doing that work with Cacao on his porch was very much all about that. It was, working with your trauma or your past or your mom issues or your dad issues or your inner child, and letting go of limiting beliefs and patterns and thinking. And Keith was just a wizard. He was really good at meeting people where they're at and guiding them in their own energy. I spent about 6 months doing that. That was kind of my deep introduction to cacao. That was very much the brew I was steeping in for 6 months. And so, actually, for about half of the week, I was volunteering at a free mobile health clinic treating um, rural, indigenous Guatemalans with acupuncture and Reiki and massage, where healthcare didn't exist. And then I'd spend the other half of the week doing ceremonies, cacao ceremonies with Keith. And I kind of was in that routine for about solidly for like about 4 months. And it changed my life. It set me on the trajectory that I am now. I remember leaving Guatemala, and I was, I had gotten sick. I had gotten parasites. I was shitting the bed at night uncontrollably. I was like alone in another country by myself at 21. It was hard and scary. I mean, I had people. I felt like I had a community, but it was challenging, and I was ready to leave. And so I left after 6 months, and I had a really hard time reintegrating back into society because I had kind of just gone into like hippie world, ungrounded, like just traveling and exploring, which was great. I'm really glad that I did. But I remember like, man, I wish I could start a business. I always wanted to start a business. And to be totally blunt and honest with myself, I was not cut out for it at that time. I was not aware of what it actually takes to start a business, maintain a business, grow a business, and keep doing that. And I was nowhere near that. And so this whole journey has kind of showed me like I used to be this very, I don't, for lack of a better word, spiritually oriented, wanted to help people heal, wanted to save the world. And then I kind of went into this experience, a bad relationship in my mid 20s for 4 years that just completely changed me. And I really think I experienced like I hit my bottom, and I decided to change. And what I've now learned is post traumatic growth. People who go through adversity, it can really make them grow if they decide to do that. And I think that's what led me. What I think that terrible experience in my mid 20s prepared me to be an entrepreneur. It prepared me to really like live the life I prefer, and instead of what you don't prefer. And so it's been this whole beautiful path of like my hero's journey of like going out into the world and learning new things and coming back to my hometown and trying to share this wisdom. And I under just people not really as into it as I was, and I felt weird about that. And now that I've grown, I've just seen how spirituality can be the most tempting form of denial for some people who really aren't willing to accept the hard reality that their life is the way it is because of them. whether they're like actively creating it or kind of just sitting back and complaining about it. And so entrepreneurship and business is the best vehicle for personal growth. It's going to show you where you suck. It's going to show you like where you need to grow, because it's never the the business only grows when you grow, and there's just constantly new things to learn. There's constantly like all these pieces to like think about, and it's an amazing wild adventure. And so yeah, I was introduced to Keith at 21. That was 12 years ago. So I've been working with this amazing plant medicine slash food for 12 years. I love it. I think it's incredible. I love that it's like the light side of the cocoa industry, because there's a lot of um, places like West Africa where they just don't pay their farmers very well. They get paid dirt cheap. The beans aren't as good of a quality, and so we're kind of working. The ceremonial market is like this little niche niche in the artisanal market, and it's, if you've ever had ceremonial cacao, you probably like, well, it's from this place. Ours is from Ecuador. It's sourced from a single origin. Ours is actually a single estate. It's this variety. Ours is an heirloom Ariba Nacional that has been cultivated for years to maintain its ancestral notes, because it was once almost completely extinct. And so this farm is dedicated to protecting and preserving the Ariba Nacional. It's a beautiful, amazing cacao. And so that's the question I get asked most often, because I think people hear me share about it and they're like, how did you get into this? Because it's not like a typical, um, yes, it's great for heart health. It's like great for mood, and it has a ton of magnesium and minerals, and people feel better when they have it. And science is like catching up to what the ancients knew. And and so yeah, I've had a lot of fun, and I keep planning to have more fun with cacao. Cheers, my friends.